folks, the recently published Heart of Jamaicans Survey reveals 81% of Jamaicans feel society is unfair, while younger adults show a growing acceptance of unethical behaviour to get ahead. Okay, to discuss this and how as a country we can get out of this situation, we are joined by Pollster and Market Researcher, Mr. Don Anderson, and attorney at law and businessman, Mr. Howard Mitchell. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning.
Amazing to see you both.
Thank you very much. Good to be on your
Sir Don, why and what were the questions in the survey?
You have enough time?
Congratulations, first of all, on your 50 years.
Yep.
You know, the whole question of how people feel about themselves and their whole country has been on the minds of politicians and policy makers and prime ministers for quite a long time. And in 2024, we thought of the idea of let's really put it into action. Let's find out exactly how people feel about themselves, how they feel about the country. And the result of the survey, you know, which we released a couple of days ago, we've had them for about a year. We didn't publish last year as we wanted to have. We didn't release it last year because the election, of course, was the most important thing during the year. And we thought that some of the data might have been, you know, kind of difficult to communicate during an election year without some biases, etc. And then Melissa. So we're here now presenting the data to the country, and we believe the findings are very, 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 very informational.
And Sir Howard, 2024 still obtains now as we speak?
Yeah, we believe that. And this, it's been obtaining for a long time. This came out of a desire by the private sector initially to try and examine the idea of social reform. Norman Manley in 1962, when he was retiring, said the mission of his generation was to obtain independence. The generation to come must look to the social reconstruction of the Jamaican society, a society that had been deeply wounded by slavery, by colonialism. But successive prime ministers, as Don said, have attempted that. Successive leaders, the values and attitudes of P.J. Patterson, Edward Seaga in 1983, returning Jamaica to the values. To some extent, some things have succeeded, some things have not. And we think it's really irrelevant in this time to look at that.
Just before Dela, what is social reform?
Social reform is, compare it to economic reform. There are structural issues which this survey points out that can lead, if unchecked, to the deterioration of a society to the point of unmanageability, right? No society can exist in a topsy-turvy state. And leadership needs to look at, and by leadership, I don't mean the political leadership, civil society, the church, need to look at how do we lead our people in a common direction that is beneficial to the majority. And that's what this survey is, an extremely useful tool if we have the will to examine it, to see how to correct some of these behaviors that are inimical to society.
Don, what I find so important about this survey is that we've moved past the anecdotal. So we'll say, you know, I think people think this, or I think we're doing this because literally what we have now is the data that says this is what is happening. What were some of the most significant things?
Well, I'm very glad that you made that point because, you know, for a long time we have had this view, anecdotally, as you rightly say, that, oh, Jamaica is such a bad country, so many bad things are happening. And one of the things that I believe came out very pointedly out of the study was the fact that, put away, we're not so bad after all, you know, because there's a significant degree of positives that came out of the study. But we've tended to place a lot of emphasis on the negative, even it's 10%, 15%, because those are the concerns, those are the areas of concern. And so we want to touch on a few of the areas that we actually looked at. Family life, for example. We looked at family life, we looked at religion, we looked at corruption, we looked at the justice system, we looked at how people feel about themselves and their country. Do people want to migrate? Why, when, how, etc. So there are a whole range of social issues that we covered, how people felt about the country, cleanliness, the environment, a pretty wide range of issues that obviously are very, very important. And as you rightly say, what is important and what is specifically useful about this is the fact that we now have the data to now put to bed the kind of speculations and anecdotes that
And
we've heard
qualify a
from
lot
time.
of what's happening.
Exactly. So there's a tremendous amount of information which I think, as Howard says, is extremely useful if put into action.
Sir Howard, my brother was teaching one day, and he asked his students what they think is the most difficult language to learn. And everybody said, French. And me put up my hand and say, me agree. And him say, French is one of the easiest languages in the world. So I look at him and say, well, my brother turned an idiot. No. And then he said, if you go to France, a 3-year-old speaks French. So it can't that difficult if a 3-year-old can speak.
Right.
I say that to say this. Are we not following?
Are we what?
Are we not following what we see up there, the youngsters?
To a huge extent, we are affected by those behaviors and what we see. We also carry the baggage, almost a cultural DNA of our history. And I'm saying that what this survey does is allows us the analysis to say this needs fixing. The fact that 22% of our people believe that while they have values and they believe that this is the right thing to do, they also believe that sometimes it's necessary to break the law to get what you want because they don't have access. So maybe we should fix the access, and then that will drop down and you get a society that behaves better.
One of the interesting things to me about the survey was the matter of respect. That we believe respect is important, that we all feel we should be respected, but we're not necessarily giving it out to anybody else. And I raise that down because the survey is so diverse. It's about values, but it's also about lived experiences, things like corruption. What I want to say advised that kind of diversity in the range in how you collected the data?
Well, first of all, it's not original in the sense that we know that there's been these concerns that have been expressed by politicians, by persons, and we thought, let's look at how people felt about their own situation and about the country in the widest possible perspective. So we looked at, as we indicated, family life, religion, corruption, the justice system, cleanliness, the environment, a range of issues. As you rightly say, it's a lived experience, and therefore we wanted to look at all the various areas that impact people's lives, you know. And that, to a large extent, was what drove the coverage, the range of issues that we looked at.
Yeah. Mr. Mitchell, whose ears need to hear this, and what should happen now if the right people hear it?
I think I said it the other evening, who have ears to hear, make them hear. If we don't understand that our society we are not lost, right? But there are directions we are heading in which are not conducive to excellence and to a standard of living and a quality of life that all of us can enjoy. So, for instance, 83% of our people believe that life in Jamaica is unfair, that we don't get justice in Jamaica. We need to refocus on that and fix the structural issues that cause a person to believe that if he is wronged, his response has to be direct and personal rather than institutional, because otherwise we're going to have chaos. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that here is this study that was done at somebody's expense, at the expense of the private sector, and it was done excellently, and you have the opportunity now to tweak the machine to get everybody aligned.
How confident are you that that will happen?
Oh, you shouldn't ask me that question. You know, I'm hopeful. Yeah. I'm hopeful. I'm not confident, but I really
not
believe.
Confident. You're not.
I'm not confident, but what I do see is a sort of awakening by some of the civil society institutions. And I also have seen on the state side, I have seen the Minister of Health make a speech in Parliament that speaks to bringing back community values and bringing back care and consideration for the least of us. So hope springs eternal. Confidence is a different matter.
Yeah. Don, my final question to you is how accessible is it on two levels? I'm watching, I want to get in, I want to know what is it, how do I find it? but also if I'm a school teacher and I want to be informed about why are my students doing what they're doing, if I go into the survey, is it easy for me to understand the data?
Very easy. As a matter of fact, we have ensured that the data is very, very accessible to all in a sense that, I mean, physically and otherwise. So that we're hoping that there will be dissemination of this information in all the right circles because it's an instructive tool.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, Don. That's an excellent point. From a business point of view, somebody selling beer can look at this and understand where and how and how they should pitch their ads to reach the people. So I think that we need to look at it in that sense, not just take up my idea of social reform, but look at it as a tool, which is what all analysis is.
It's at the core of understanding who we are as a people.
Precise.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, congratulations to your 50 years.
Thank you very much.
Of service to
Been a while.
Jamaica, yeah, and great service done. So thank you both.
And service in many different areas.
Yes, yes.
How many
Thank you very
Olympics
much,
you've been to? And
About 7 of them.
thank you.
I was the head of the delegation.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
And I can remember the CAC games that you were.
Oh, yes.
Émission.
I speak about it quite often, but
Yeah, man.
otherwise,
Two great Jamaicans.
Two great
you very much.
Jamaicans.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Pollster and Market Researcher, Mr. Don Anderson, and attorney at law and businessman, Mr. Howard Mitchell.
Coming up, Neville's going to speak with the viral social media teacher from Jonathan Grant High School. We'll soon come.